What's up, beautiful people, and welcome back to the Womanhood podcast, where we talk about all things intersectionality of womanhood and what that looks like on a college campus. It's your girl Nessa here. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm here with my co-host Kirsten.
Hey, I'm Kirsten. I also use she, her pronouns, and I'm very excited about our topic today.
Yes, it is Black History Month. It's the last week of Black History Month. But that doesn't mean we stop here. We could continue to celebrate Black excellence and everything that's happening. So Black History Month is all about highlighting and celebrating Blackness in every form. And I think it's very vital and important to celebrate those that have paved the way for Black people in the Black community. And so today, I want to just speak on those that have inspired me to keep taking up space as a Black woman and the importance of my voice being amplified in spaces where I may not be welcomed. When I think of individuals that have inspired me, I think of Oprah and I think of Michelle Obama. These women have been such inspiration. They are driven, they are determined, and they continue to remind me just to stay the course, to be dedicated to my craft. And once I do that, my voice will be heard. I will be speaking all about the most recent film, Malcolm and Marie. This is a very, controversial film. A lot of people have many different thoughts about this film. And so I'm super excited to speak about this film and just a little bit about sharing Black excellence in Hollywood and some of our favorite Black films, actors, influencers, and some Black TV shows as well.
Awesome. Very cool. Okay, so disclaimer before we go any further. We are going to be talking about this movie in detail. We're going to be talking about the actors involved, the writing process, all of those things. We're going to go into excruciating detail about their relationship and the things that happen, big plot points. So this is a huge, massive spoiler alert. If you do not want to be spoiled about Malcolm and Marie, stop now, go watch the movie, and then come back, please, and listen to the conversation. And also, I want to give a content warning for our discussion around relationship abuse and also probably something about addiction. And this is also a general content warning for the film as well. So the movie depicts examples of relationship abuse and it deals with addiction. It's really heavy and it can be difficult to watch. And I think that Vanessa can also attest to that. It is not a happy-go-lucky, lighthearted movie. It is very difficult to watch. It gives you a lot to chew on, and it can be really triggering, even if you haven't been in situations like this personally. And also, we wanted to say that this is one example of relationship abuse, which is an issue that's prevalent amongst a lot of different types of people, any type of relationship, no matter the gender, sexuality, class, race, religion, anything like that. And we're just going to use this film to talk about relationship abuse a little bit, and we invite you to join us in the discussion. You can share your thoughts with us in the comments, feelings about it. If you think that we have a terrible take, let us know. But yeah, hopefully we're going to offer a couple of different perspectives and a well-rounded review of the film, if you will.
Definitely, just like Kirsten mentioned, make sure to go in the comments, share your thoughts, give us feedback as well, like how you felt about the film. So Malcolm and Marie, what a film. Super emotionally draining to watch. We literally watch an hour and 45 minutes of an argument. And so let me just start off by saying this film was written and directed by Sam Levinson and also inspired by an argument Sam had with his wife. So basically a portion of this film is sharing Sam's life and it's reflected in the film. There's two lovers who live together, Malcolm, who is played by John David Washington, and Marie, who is played by Zendaya. Malcolm is a film director, and this was the night of his film premiere, and he's excited. Like, he's dancing in the kitchen, like all the shots. Like, I feel like the shots that were taking of the video of him dancing was really great. And Marie is upset because her boo thing did not thank her in her speech. I would be upset too. Like, you didn't thank me. Like, I play a big role in this as well. So this one argument brought up some very unresolved issues and deeper layers in this relationship. So we're just going to dive a little bit deeper into that.
And I also want to say that the celebration of Black excellence that we're doing in this episode is really specifically, as we talk about Malcolm and Marie, we're celebrating the incredible performances of Zendaya and John David Washington. We're not celebrating the relationship.
No.
We are not celebrating Malcolm and Marie themselves as people. We're celebrating the spectacular performances that were given by those two artists and the contributions that they gave in other ways as well. Zendaya played a big role in the writing of the film with Sam Levinson, who's also her creative partner on Euphoria. So yeah, celebrating that. Just wanted to say that before we talk about the relationship abuse and the gaslighting that happens and like the psychological stuff going on that is not great. So we see a lot of different kinds of emotional abuse happening, and I want to emphasize as well that this is happening on both ends. This is not only coming from one of them towards the other. This is very much like reciprocated on both sides. A lot of really unhealthy stuff going on, and we see a lot of repetition in their relationship too. Can you, Vanessa, do you remember examples of like the repetition that plays out between the two of them in the movie?
Starting off in like the beginning, just like we mentioned previously, Marie just being upset that her husband didn't thank her, so she's pissed about that. And then throughout the movie, with the mac and cheese scene, like she's cooking mac and cheese for this guy, and this guy is not even thanking her for that. Just so many little things that are within this film that Malcolm, he's acting like, what's wrong? I know something's wrong. And she's being very direct, like, you didn't thank me. This is the reason that I'm upset. And definitely other unresolved things started coming up. But the core thing that's repeated throughout the film is Marie is not, she's not feeling appreciated. And Malcolm is just trying to pick at her, go around circles, like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? And she's being super direct and letting him know, but that's still not getting through his thick skull, clearly.
How do you feel about Malcolm, Vanessa?
How do I feel about Malcolm? Malcolm. He is, wow. Just so, there's so much about Malcolm. Gaslighting Marie, being very, very hurtful. Like I've noticed within the film, he used like so many words, like him even speaking about his previous relationships with Marie, trying to like break her down and, through verbal abuse. He is a narcissist. Like he doesn't really care about Zendaya or Marie. He doesn't care about Marie. So yeah, those are some things that I've noticed about Malcolm. What about you, Kirsten?
Yeah, so you mentioned gaslighting, which I want to go ahead and give a little bit of a definition for those who might not be in the know about gaslighting, what that is. So gaslighting is a form of psychological abuse where one person makes another person question their reality and their truth. So someone will do this usually to take control over a situation or exert power over another person and to avoid taking responsibility for their role in a situation. That is very present in Malcolm and Marie. And I agree with your assessment about Malcolm on every level. I think he's got a lot of issues. I will say completely enamored by John David Washington's performance of Malcolm. He is so incredible. I don't know if you've seen John David Washington in a lot. I first saw him, I think, in Ballers, and then I know him most from Black Klansman, which I think was probably his most, I don't know, notable performance to date, maybe. I don't know if I can say that, but this to me stood out so much. I had no idea he had chops like this, like incredible. So I want to say that. But yeah, looking at Malcolm as an individual, I mean, he's a very dedicated artist. Like he's completely committed to his craft and really passionate about his work. which I can relate to personally. Like, I also feel really strongly about my work. And I, like, you can feel it in the way that he speaks, like in his tone. But he has a lot of issues around expressing love and appreciation for the people who have invested in him. He definitely is taking Marie for granted in so many ways.
Definitely. Just him just sharing within the film, saying that to Zendaya, like screaming or saying to Marie, I keep saying Zendaya, but Malcolm sharing to Marie, you're mentally unstable, calling her delusional, like all of these things, just belittling her and yelling at her. That's something I've noticed within the film. Like his tone was very like downgrading her and just belittling her in the film. And she's just there. Marie's just there, like, okay, like not chilling, but like you can see that she has a lot within her that has not yet been expressed. I feel like she's a balloon ready to pop, which we've seen over the course of the film as well. When she starts to bring up different issues about what's going on in their relationship.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. And that speaks to like the cyclical nature of their relationship. I like the balloon imagery. It's like they go and go and go and they blow up and then they start back over again and then they keep building and building and building and then they blow up again, which is very much like a solid representation of the cycle of abuse, where you experience like a period of calm and the good stuff in a relationship, and then there's a point of tension and a period where that tension builds, and then it ends up in some kind of incident, and then it starts back at the beginning again. And we see that over and over and over again in this movie. I don't know exactly how many revolutions we get around that cycle, but it happens many times over the course of the film. Hard, I will say, it was hard for me watching to understand why they keep coming back to one another, what it is that they see in this relationship and in each other that would make either of them want to come back and keep coming back and keep fighting and hurting each other. It can be really hard to understand if you haven't been in this situation yourself before. But this is a great reflection of reality. Abusive relationships are often really cyclical, and it's often really hard for loved ones of people who are in abusive relationships to understand why they don't leave. But it can be really, really difficult to leave once you're in that, once you're caught in the cycle. And it can also be really dangerous to leave. And we don't see examples of physical violence enacted in the movie, but it wouldn't be too much of a leap to get there, I will say, with a relationship like this. It's not hard for us as viewers to like imagine it getting there. And in the scene where Zendaya pulls the knife out and you don't quite understand what's happening yet, I wasn't shocked. I was like, yep, this is where it's going. How did you feel in that scene?
Yeah, in that scene, I'm like, yes, Zendaya, yes. Like,
oh no. Vanessa.
That's
no.
But then the plot twist when she's like, this is how you act. Like, this is the reason I should have gotten the job. Or I should have been casted. And I was like, whoa, like the plot twist there was just crazy. And it's clear that they are attached to one another. Their lives are interwoven, and it's kind of hard for them to, get over it or get over this relationship. And it's like, why are they still together? Like, this is going on, but it's clear that they are attached, and there's something damaged, like with both of them. It's not just Marie's damage or Malcolm, like both of them are damaged. He was like telling her to wipe the smile off your face because you look like a clown, just moments after he said he loved her. Like, it's just so wild to me. Like, there's 1 minute he's like, I love you, I want this to keep going, and the next moment he's like, you're a loser. Like, and it's just the dynamic of this relationship blows my mind, and it's very toxic and unhealthy, which we definitely see here. So
yeah, for sure. And I'll also say, like, I think it's maybe a little bit easier to look at the situation and point out how horrible Malcolm is. um
it's all Malcolm. No,
he
it's not. It's
yeah,
both.
so Marie has her moments
Yeah,
as
she definitely
well.
does.
But it's a good example of seeing like how an abusive situation, or even just a volatile situation, even if it's not something that you would necessarily categorize as abuse. This Malcolm and Marie this is absolutely an example of relationship abuse. But in another circumstance, like there are relationships that you can end up in, romantic or otherwise, where a person can bring out the worst in you. They can bring out things in you that you didn't even know existed. And I think that it's very possible that for Marie, these behaviors, the volatility, the toxicity, the anger, the poorly expressed anger, I should say, the belittling, the guilting, all of those things, the gaslighting, the deflecting of the responsibility, have become normal to her because they're coming from Malcolm, and that's how he fights, that's how he argues. And so when those behaviors are normalized in a relationship, then the other party who, you know, isn't initiating those actions, but is experiencing them, can fall into those behaviors as well. So we definitely see that with Marie, that she's doing these things too. And it's rough. It's very, very hard to watch. We talked about in our last episode, we talked about the 10 signs of a healthy relationship from the One Love Foundation. And this is a great opportunity to talk about the 10 signs of an unhealthy relationship, which I will say, being familiar with the 10 signs, as I was watching it for the first time, I was like counting on a checklist in my head down the list of the 10 signs, and every single box was ticked. All of these unhealthy signs were very present with Malcolm and Marie. So the 10 signs, if you're not familiar, are intensity, volatility, deflecting responsibility, guilting, belittling, manipulation, isolation, sabotage, and betrayal. So we've talked about almost every single one of those on the list already in our discussion of the movie. So yeah, those are things that, you know, can be expressed in a lot of different ways. They can come out in a lot of different ways. And some of them are unhealthy expressions of healthy emotions. And I think that with Malcolm and Marie, and maybe even especially Marie, they're experiencing anger and jealousy and bitterness. Marie is really upset, as you mentioned, that she's not experiencing like the love and the gratitude that she should be feeling from Malcolm are not coming in. And so she's like experiencing this void, and this lack of appreciation. And those are normal emotions, natural things to feel. Anger, jealousy, all of it, totally normal. The issue comes in when a person isn't able to express those emotions in a healthy way. So this issue that Marie has with Malcolm not thanking her in his speech at the awards show, that could have been a conversation that could have gone very differently and worth a conversation and needed to be, you know, discussed between the two of them. But they clearly, neither one of them currently has the tools to express those feelings in a healthy way. And so they come out in those unhealthy behaviors. What I would love to hear, Vanessa, if there was like one moment or one behavior that really stood out to you as like, oh, this is bad. This is very bad in the
There's
movie.
so many. Where Malcolm, they're in a conversation and he's very passionate about like what he's talking about, like film and him, you know, being able to get this award and everything. And Marie, she's sitting there, she's listening, she's like, okay, yeah. And they're good right then. And then they are going in to have like some type of sexual intimacy, which was displayed in the film. And then Marie is sitting there and she's crying. Malcolm was like, I had to use the restroom. He comes back out and he was like, Marie, not again. Like, what's going on? Like, what do you mean? Like, we were just having a good time. Like, what's going on? I feel like this whole relationship is just a recreation of her trauma. It's just being replaced with another addiction. So yeah, that's some of the things that I noticed. And it's just a constant, like, not even battle. It's just like 1 minute they're good, next minute it's like madness. And so they're constantly in this same cycle over and over again.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I think you make a really, really good point there about Marie replacing one addiction for another.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I will also add that, interestingly enough, that is also a plot line and a theme in Euphoria, which is the other Sam Levinson Zendaya joint. That exact concept of a person who struggles with substance addiction, replacing substances with a relationship, and then exhibiting those same like addictive behaviors in a romantic relationship. Also curious to know your feelings about this being the 2021 example that we got fresh out of the gate of Black love. This being the example that we got. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. What are my thoughts on this? It's just the way that Black love has been displayed in films as something traumatic, like trauma, and one of the couples beating up the other, drug abuse, substance abuse. And I've seen this in movies countless times. And it's like, okay, when can I actually see a movie that's about Black love that's healthy, that's not, drugs and each partner belittling each other? And so that's something I've noticed here in this film. And just my thoughts on it, I think it's also very draining. I can speak for myself as a Black woman to just see this in certain movies, and it's like, okay, I can't watch this anymore. I can't do this anymore, because it's like, when can I see something healthy and not necessarily just fights and arguments all the time, because that's not a reality for every Black couple. So yeah, I would say those are some of my thoughts on that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's so hard when there's a lack of quantity, when there's a lack of representation, when there exists this void. When there is an example of it, then people are naturally going to pin a lot of like hope or weight on that thing. And so when there are so few examples of Black love in Hollywood, of course, the examples that we do have, people are going to look to that. And, I don't know if there are really kids going to be watching this, but if there are, people who are watching this and seeing it as, seeing themselves reflected on the screen and thinking that this is the kind of love that they deserve or that they should aspire to, or that's inevitably going to happen. And those are incorrect sentiments to absorb from watching something like this. And it is so unfortunate. And I will say, like, as a queer person, the same sort of phenomenon, if you want to say, like the issue of representation, that same thing happens. And there was just a whole conversation somewhat recently about the movie Happiest Season that came out, and the issues that people perceived in that, because it was the first queer Christmas movie. And so there are aspects of it that people didn't like, but it's the first time they're seeing themselves reflected in a movie like that. And so, of course, people are going to pin a lot of stuff on it, and it's not going to stack up. This movie, Malcolm and Marie, I think is an even more egregious example of that, though, which is that it's like a very poor example. It's not an example of healthy love between two people.
And
I think that
importance.
Go ahead.
The importance of Black love stories is not just because of like awards, but like you mentioned also, it's about the representation.
Mm-hmm.
It's important for that diversity to be shown. And I feel like we just need more diverse storytelling in Hollywood and just sharing those stories.
Absolutely. It's also, I think, important to point out in this movie the unfortunate reality of there are only two characters in the movie, but the Black man being an abusive person, and being in
Yeah.
a relationship with someone and like taking advantage. And the age difference is something that's been talked about a lot in the media, in like the film criticism of this movie, and talked about on social media as well. And Zendaya has responded to it, and it's complicated to talk about, but it is, not a good look. And it's not good for young Black men to see themselves reflected in a character like Malcolm. I think that there needs to be space in art for unhealthy people and unhealthy relationships and everything to be represented, because that is a reality for a lot of people. But it can't be the only example, and that's where the issue comes in. And it is really unfortunate that Malcolm is one of the few Black male characters that we have in 2021 so far, and he is not a good partner at all.
At all.
Yeah,
At
so
all.
that
At
sucks.
all.
Not a win.
Yeah.
A win for John David Washington, his performance.
Yeah. The performances,
but not for,
spot on.
yeah.
Everything else, run, ladies. If you're listening to this and you see some of these characteristics in somebody that you know, or you have a spouse or boyfriend, it's like run, honestly. But like even Kirsten, you mentioning that it can be hard too. Like once you're attached to this person, it can be hard to move on or move forward from this relationship. And also there can be like some dangerous, it may not be as safe to leave as well. So yeah.
Yeah, it's important, if you are in a situation like this, or if you have a loved one who's in a situation like this and needs to get out and is in a place where they recognize that they need to get out, to make sure that you have a safety plan for how to get out. And there are a lot of different resources, national resources that you can go to. The One Love Foundation is one example of that. There are also great local resources in South Florida, since that's where we're based. I will go ahead and mention the Nancy J. Cotterman Center and Women in Distress of Broward County. Those are both two great organizations that you can go to that can help you with safety planning. And speaking to the college students, our listeners, you can also reach out to your Title IX office or your campus women's center, and they can also get you connected with the right resources to do that. It's very important to have a safety plan if you find yourself in an abusive relationship, because getting out can be dangerous, but there are people who can help you to do that safely.
Yes, definitely. So let's speak about our overall view and thoughts of the film in its entirety. The how the actors performed, like we mentioned, we both think that they did such an incredibly great job. I also believe like the edits, the cinematography, it being in black and white was really cool. I really loved that touch, and just also like the soul type of music they had in the background. I think that was really great. How do you feel about that, Kirsten?
It was stunning. I mean, it's so beautiful. Like, as
Yeah.
a fan of Hollywood, I'm a huge fan of like, good like classic cinematography. Like the black and white element I thought was amazing. It was beautiful. I loved it. And I think it was also really cool to see a COVID movie, if we can call it
Yeah.
that. I mean, it was shot, it was like, it was thought of, created, and done, produced and distributed all during the pandemic. And it was like made like a
That's
bare
pretty big.
bones set, all in one house, two actors, like very, very minimal crew. And they made a really gorgeous piece of art. And I think that is another thing that we can absolutely celebrate from Malcolm and
Yeah,
Marie.
that's
That was
something I'll
stunning.
definitely give them. Yeah.
Yep.
So I would say my overall rating on a scale from 1 to 10 of Malcolm and Marie, I would give it like a 6.5. I feel like there's definitely the writing could have been a bit more better, like a bit better. I've developed a bit more. But I will give it a 6.5. How about you?
I am going to be a little bit more generous in my rating of on the scale of 1 to 10. I would give this movie an 8 personal on the Kirsten scale. I think that it does not pass the Bechdel test, which is unfortunate, but there are also only 2 characters. So
That's true. Yeah.
But it's the the issues that we've talked about. I think I appreciate a piece of filmmaking that gives me the opportunity to have a conversation like this. So if this didn't exist, we wouldn't be able to have this conversation.
True.
And so I think it's important, like I mentioned before, to have to have room in art for bad people and bad relationships and, all of that stuff. I think it's important to have space there for that. I think the issue comes in when people are consuming that as though it's an example of how to be, and that is not at all what we should take away from a movie like Malcolm and Marie. But I think that it was a triumph in terms of the cinematography, in terms of the acting, and I think that the writing was also strong for what it was. It was a series of back and forth monologues between 2 people alone in a house, and with that being what it was, I think it was great. So yeah, I'll give it an 8. Yeah.
We just gave our ratings on this amazing movie. It had some amazing things to it. It did. Not everything, but that's totally fine. Everything isn't going to be perfect. And so just with highlighting Zendaya and Mr. Washington. Why am I calling him Mr. Washington? John David Washington. Just highlighting both. Yeah. John David Washington, just highlighting their performances. As Black individuals, we want to be able to also highlight some Black excellence and share some of our favorite Black influencers, some of Black films and Black authors that we like. So yeah, Kirsten, kick us off with that.
Awesome. Okay. So I will start off by plugging a couple of other podcasts, which is a little sacrilegious to be plugging other podcasts on a podcast, but I love to do that. So I've actually recently started listening to Nicole Byer's podcast, which is called Why Won't You Date Me? And she interviews people and talks about her love life and what it is like navigating the dating world as a single Black woman. She also has some really great insight into discussing fat phobia in dating, navigating dating apps during the pandemic and what that looks like. It's really great. I really enjoyed the episode that she does with Roxane Gay, and also Conan O'Brien came on and they had a really good conversation. So it's called Why Won't You Date Me with Nicole Byer. And then my favorite podcast of all time is called Still Processing, with Wesley Morris and Jenna Wortham, who are writers for the New York Times, and they talk about pop culture and the world. But it's great. And I also have some YouTubers that I would like to plug. Jade Fox on YouTube, as well as her second channel, which is called Made You Looks. She talks about fashion and specifically fashion for queer people, queer women who are masculine of center, which is there's not a lot of that content out there, so it's pretty cool. Amber's Closet on YouTube, Shannon Boudram on YouTube, which her handle is Shan Booty, and she is this incredible sex educator. I feel like everyone's always talking about Shannon.
She's great. Yeah, she's amazing. I was like, wait, hold up, this name sounds familiar. Yeah, she talks all about sex, and I think it's really important that, I'm so sorry for interrupting you, but I was like, wait, she sounds so familiar. Interrupt me. I'm like, she sounds so familiar. Like, her videos have definitely been really beneficial and just learning about your sexuality, and so I really enjoy watching her too.
Her and her husband just had a baby recently. Yeah. And that's been really cool. Mm-hmm. Yep. Also Jasmine J on Instagram. I think formerly BuzzFeed. I don't know if she's still with BuzzFeed or not, but she's got a lot of really great like body positivity content and fashion and yeah. And then I wanted to also shout out a couple of musicians. Arlo Parks is a recent favorite of mine, who just put out a new album in 2021 called Collapsed in Sunbeams. My favorite track off of that album at the moment is called Eugene. It's great. And the amazing, the incredible FKA Twigs, who just put out a single called Don't Judge Me, which is great. And I'm sure that everyone's probably already heard it, but I couldn't resist plugging FKA Twigs. All right, Vanessa, your turn. Who do you want to celebrate this month?
Viola Davis. Who doesn't love Viola Davis? She's such an amazing actress, and like I believe recently she got nominated, the most nominated Black actress in the Oscars history. And I would say I really love her in the movie The Help. I'm not sure if you've seen that, but yeah, I really enjoy that. Also, I'll jump into Jackie Aina. She's a Black beauty influencer. She's also a YouTuber, and just her personality, everything. And she's like one of the first YouTubers to, like, as a Black woman, to get into the makeup industry and the beauty industry, being a dark-skinned Black woman at that. And we already know, like, when it comes to like colorism, and so I just really enjoy her spirit and her just sharing her experience being in the beauty industry as a dark-skinned Black woman. I think that's important to note. And some musicians that I'll highlight, SZA. Who doesn't love SZA? Good Days. That song is just so beautiful. I listen to that literally every single morning. Like it's really not healthy. No, it is healthy because that songs make me feel so good. Like I love that song, Good Days by SZA. Also, I want to highlight Jasmine Sullivan. She just came out with a recent album. And wow, just her tone, her range in singing is so amazing. I would say the last person, Lauryn Hill. She's just a classic, very 90s R&B. You're driving. There's just things that I really enjoy about her tone and just the way that she expresses herself through music. So Lauryn Hill is definitely a classic. 90s R&B. It's just a bump, it's a vibe. So those are some individuals that I wanted to highlight for this Black History Month.
I love it. Some very, very good people that we plugged.
Yeah, these are amazing people.
Awesome. Well, I had a great time talking about Malcolm and Marie this episode. We hope that you all enjoyed, and we had a lot of hot takes. So please, if you disagree with us, if you agree, let us know. We would love to hear it. And hopefully you maybe, got some resources, or maybe we offered a perspective you hadn't thought about before about Malcolm and Marie, which would be super. Do you have any other great examples of Black artistry in filmmaking or in any other area, especially like new stuff? Let us know, please share it. We would love to see. We struggled a little bit in doing research and picking something to highlight this episode because there isn't a lot out at the moment. So if you know of stuff, please share it with us. We would love to watch. We would love to listen, and maybe discover some new people. So please share that in the comments as well. Follow us on Instagram at the Womxnhood Podcast, and that's Womanhood with an X. Listening, and we will catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.